I feel like this is the third day in a row where I've just sat here with a cat on my lap. Hang on, no, that's because it is the third day in a row where I've sat with a cat on my lap. Anyway, welcome to Music of the Month for September 2020. You all know the rules by now. I review all the albums I listened to for the previous month, and yeah, tell you what I thought of them. They all have a little grade, and we're just going to go through them album by album in alphabetical order of the band's names. So let's start now. We begin with 10 Years with Violent Allies. This is an album that came out, well, in September, obviously. This is a band that's been around for a surprisingly long time. This is their 7th or 8th effort, I believe. They've been around for a long while. They're this unique prog rock project, and this one gets an A. I love the political lean to it. It's got some real heartfelt emotion to it. It's just got really good instrumentation. It's handled really nicely. It doesn't waste as much time as a lot of other prog albums I have this year, so yeah, I actually surprisingly quite enjoyed it, so worth giving a shot, this one. I actually quite liked it. Next is Across the Swarm with Projections. I think this is the debut in contrast to the previous album I just covered. Yeah, pretty solid metalcore-ish, sort of proggy sort of thing. I really liked it. It doesn't last long, but it's actually got quite a lot of content packed into it despite its short length. I'm giving it a B+. I thought this was a really promising start for them. And yeah, it's a pretty good metal album. If you just need some good prog metalcore-ish sort of stuff, then this one might be up your alley, although be aware that the album cover is a bit creepy, as you're about to see now. I'm almost hesitant to put it in my video, so yeah, I mean, I don't monetize my content, so I'm not going to get demonetized or get a warning for it, but here it is. Creepy. Moving on. Next is Alright with I'm Doing This to Myself. This is also a new band. I think this is also a debut. I did cover quite a lot of new stuff in September, I have to forewarn you now. Yeah, this was just like a really sort of small, sweet, really well put together female-led pop-punk act, sort of indie rock thing. I'm giving it a B. I thought there were some moments that needed work. The production is actually not great on this album, but it is won over by how heartfelt the band sound. There's some really nice lyrics on it. It's a really well put together album despite the production cutting quite a lot of it off in that regard. So yeah, it's still worth the go though. I would recommend giving it a try. Pretty good stuff. Next is Alpha Wolf with A Quiet Place to Die. Now this is probably one a lot of people might have anticipated me reviewing, considering that this one had quite a lot of buzz following it, and the band themselves have a lot of reason for that, and they're already ticking my boxes because Australian metal, and they sound really good. I think this is only their second album as well, and their first in about 3 years, and it gets a B+. I really enjoyed this. This is just some solid, really surprisingly heartfelt metalcore too. There are some parts for it that I wish some songs went on a bit longer, and it does rely heavily on breakdowns, but they're really good breakdowns. And it's also got some really nice lyrics to it too. But yeah, I think a B+ is a pretty good grade for what is a really, really good album, and a really good start to this band's career, because they haven't been around long, but they're really showing some strong songwriting chops with this. Next is Barely Civil with I'll Figure This Out. This is a sort of an indie rock, shoegazy thing. I don't remember a lot about the sound for this one, but I remember I quite liked the album. I think it was quite pop-punky, quite catchy. Once again, quite an emotionally sort of ringing thing, like Alright, I'm Doing This to Myself. It gets a B+ as well. I actually really enjoyed this one from what I remember of it. Just a really nicely put together album. Not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but not horrible. Really, really fun album too. Once again, just really good lyrics. September actually had quite a few of these, except for the next example, we'll get to that soon. But yeah, Barely Civil, I'll Figure This Out. Really enjoyable. Next is Boy Becomes Hero with Escape Artist. This one is only a sequel album, I think, or it's a debut. It's still early goings for this project. This was started by a guy named Andrew Brittingham, and it gets a C-. There was just some things that are off-putting about it. First of all, it didn't really help that Johnny Craig was involved in one of the songs, so fuck that. But there was also the fact that the dude, the main dude, Andrew, couldn't really decide between screaming or singing. His singing was quite nice, and I wish it focused more on the melody, because that's when the album actually sounded more cohesive, but it wastes a lot of time with its heavy bollocks that feels a bit edge boyish, and it just doesn't work for me. And there was also a few too many instrumental tracks when there really didn't need to be. This album does not have the best put together of it. It does try to be emotional, it fails in some points, but for what it achieves, it's not completely bad, it's just really not memorable, and it's kind of a grating listen, so I wouldn't personally recommend this one. Next is Dead Lord with Surrender. So yeah, judging by the band, album, and album cover, I was expecting this one to be a bit more political leaning, a bit more hard rockish in that regard. It is still hard rockish, but it's just more of a bouncy, weirdly fun feeling album, considering that 2020 has not really been consistent in its own tone. This album really wasn't either, but it's still not bad. It's just some really solid rock chops. I give it a B-. I thought this one had some really, really nice moments to it. It was really nicely put together. It does fall apart in its lyrics, and some of the structuring is just really repetitive, but god damn, there's some good guitar work on this album. I mean that sincerely. There's some great riffs and great solos on this one, and the band do sound genuinely invested in what they're doing. I just wish this one had gone in a bit longer and stuck around in my head a bit more, but for what it's worth, not terrible. Not bad. Next is Death Wheelers with Divine Filth. Now, I had to do a fair bit of research into these guys because some article I saw said that they wrote music for like a soundtrack to a movie that doesn't exist, so but apparently I think they just like took soundtrack or sound clippings from a movie. It's an entirely instrumental album. It's just a lot of metal. The only like lyrics you hear are from the sound clips that they use in the movie. They're a Canadian band as well. This is still early goings for them. I still give it a B though. I don't know what it is, but I've been like tricked into a lot of instrumental albums in this year, but this was again just a really sort of enjoyable one, you know? It's just an instrumental album and a really good one at that. It feels like it should fit into like a biker-leaning zombie horror movie, so yeah, it does what it's supposed to do. I can't really believe I said that sentence, but I've said weirder shit on this channel, I'm sure. Next, another one I'm sure people were probably surprised. I would probably be surprised if I left it out. Deftones with Ohms. So, Deftones, my first album by them was Gore, which came out 4 years ago, and I liked that one. I like Ohms a lot more though. I give it an A. I was really impressed with this one. It's just like, once again, just beautifully musically layered. Really great lyrics. Chino Moreno is still one of the best vocalists in this specific genre. He just sounds really amazing. He's maybe one of the best alternative metal vocalists ever. Obviously, the rest of the band is great as well. It's got some lovely sound tones to it. I don't exactly know what takes it away from being an A+. I guess maybe it does have a tendency to meander a little bit, but just really solid, really great work from the band. Really love the album. Possibly could make it for my favourites list, maybe. I don't know. You know, they're just a band that everyone seems to like, and there is a good reason for that. So yeah, A, really good album. Next is Fame on Fire with Levels. Now, this one had quite a lot behind it, especially considering that they'd released a covers album before this, and one of the singles for this one featured Trevor Wentworth from Last Night, also a band known for doing a lot of covers. I can't give this album anything more than a C+, though, because it feels like they wanted so much to just lean all the way into one thing, and they kept pulling themselves back. And there was the time to show restraint is when you're like 3 or 4 albums in, when you can get away with it. This was a debut of original songs. Like, these are the only original songs they've written to my knowledge, and it wasn't a perfect one. It's still got some really nice moments to it, though, and it's got some really good soundscapes, but it relies too heavily on its guest spots, because there's more than just Trevor on this album, and it definitely needed a bit more work in the production front. There was just way too much, like, blowing up certain elements that just don't work for me, but it's not horrible. I guess a C+ is the best grade I can really give it. I can't give it anything less, and I can't bring myself to give it anything more, so there you go. Next up is Fit for a King with The Path. Now, Fit for a King are very well known for being a band that sort of only does one thing, but that one thing is actually a really good thing. They're a metalcore-leaning act. They're a Christian act, obviously. This album gets a B. I mean, it's one of the B's I'm not sure of, though. I think there's just something about it that, like, there's just something about Fit for a King in general where they just need to improve on what they're doing. They sort of suffer from the same problem that Bury Tomorrow sort of have, like, really solid metal, but they need to work on certain areas to make it, like, really stick with your head. It's good for what it does, but it's not anything exceptional, I guess is the phrase I could use. So I think a B is about the best grade I can give this, so yeah. Next is For Token with Ruin. So this is another sort of new one. This is a new act. This is a metal act, a very sort of black metal act, very symphonic. And I'm giving this one, surprisingly, an A minus. Now, this album only has 6 songs, and a couple of those are stretched out over 10 minutes, but I was just so thoroughly entertained by this album. I can't really put my finger on it. Normally, I don't like stuff like this, which is why I hated things like Defeated Sanity's new album, or there's an album like last year or the year before that. No, it was last year. I think it was Boondocks' album, which it turns out was just an EP, so I didn't have to review that one anyway. But I did because I'm an idiot, But this one, just it's a full album of 6 songs, and it stretches out a lot, and it's got a really nice concept to it, and I liked it, so it gets an A minus. Okay, I can't really explain why. I just really enjoyed it. So there you go. Next is Gasoline Lollipops with All the Misery Money Can Buy. These are a sort of country-ish leaning act, sort of in the political sort of vein as well, that I've been listening to for the last month or so, maybe. By which I mean, the new Call to War and White Buffalo albums too. This gets a pretty solid B. I actually quite liked a lot of the lyrical content on it. It's really nicely put together. It does have a tendency to drag though. It's got way too many quiet moments. I wish it had gone harder in certain moments, but it's really good. It's quite a different album for its genre as well, which I can always appreciate, and the bands are genuinely trying to make something out of it, so can't really fault it. Next is The Gooms with Laugh. These are a very new project as well. I'm covering quite a lot of these. This is their second album, I believe. This is just really solid, not taking itself super seriously, indie rock sort of punk. This gets a B+. I really, really enjoyed this album. I thought there was a lot of really nice moments to it, It was just really nicely put together, has some great lyrics as well. There were some moments where I wish they'd leaned more into their melodies, but for what they do, it's really enjoyable. It's just really straightforward, really solid, and really enjoyable. And they don't really do a lot of pissing around that a lot of indie acts have a tendency to do, so gets good shit from me. This is apparently good shit. Next, though, I didn't think I'd ever have the privilege to talk about this album. Next is The Hell with Joris Hardcore Opera Part 1. And all I can say is I'm looking forward to Part 2. I'm giving this one an A+. This was like a punk rock metalcore musical thing. It's got like a lot of skits in between that tell of a main character named Joris, and Joris is one of the best fucking made up names I've ever heard. I just can't help but smile whenever it's just Joris, it just makes me smile. But yeah, The Hell are a very sort of new-ish. I don't want to say they're newish. I've known about them for at least 6 years. This is a proper, really good full album by them, and I really hope Part 2 comes soon, because I want to hear more about Joris and his story of taking over the office place where he works at, so they can unite and rally the other workers there against their hateful overboss, whose name I think was Keith or something equally as knobby. But yeah, A+, it's just, great lyrics, it's really nicely put together, it put a fucking smile on my face, and it goes hard with the music too, it's so good. Please listen to this one. I never thought I'd say this about an album like this, but please listen to it, it's worth your fucking while. Next is Idols with Ultramono. Now, Idols, so yeah, I completely missed them for a little bit, and as people know, I didn't really hear a lot about them until last year, where I went out my way to listen to Brutalism and then Joys and Act of Resistance. Both great albums. This one also really good. Still, I would give it an A-. It lacks that spark that made Joys and Act of Resistance so enjoyable. But even still, with what we get, still Idols being really good at being idols, just being themselves, They have a lot of new lyrical content to turn from because of, their newfound fame after the last album really sort of blew them up. It's a really, really enjoyable album. It's still it's still pretty heartfelt. It lacks in some areas, but still really strongly written and really nice lyrics. It's sort of like how I feel about Trivium's new album, I give it this high grade, but I'm not really sure why. I'm not really sure what it is that I can't fully put a finger on, But yeah, Idols Ultramono, I still recommend it. I still give it an A-. Speaking of A-, Knuckle Puck with 2020. Yeah, it does get an A-. That's what it gets. So this is my first Knuckle Puck album. I know they're a band that have been around for a while. They're definitely a band I've wanted to check out for a while. I just wanted to wait until they put out new music, and this is that new music. This is a full album of theirs. I'm petting my cat. And Yeah, just really enjoyable, solid pop punk that doesn't waste as much time with the incel bullshit as a lot of the pop punk I've heard this year. So, yeah. Sorry about that. My phone went off and I was checking what it was, and I think it was a message about like some backing up thing. So that's neither here nor there. But back to the album Knucklepuck 2020. Yeah, really, really good songs, really catchy as well. One of the catchier pop punk albums I think I've heard. Not just in the past month, but maybe all year, maybe in the past half a year. Yeah, just really solid stuff, and there's a reason that so many people like Knucklepuck. So go out of your way and listen to 2020. It's worth it. Next is Landfall with The Turning Point, and you know how I said a bit earlier about how I couldn't really pin what the problem was about Idol's new album Ultramono? There are a lot of problems with The Turning Point by Landfall. I'm giving it only a C though, because it's still fairly early going, but this is something I said when I wrote the sort of mini review I did on Discord. This is the epitome of douchebag in college, wearing no shirt, sitting under an oak tree, playing an acoustic guitar, rock. It has such fucking insipid lyrics, such uninspired riffs. Why am I not giving this a lower grade? I don't know. It's just really bad. The production saves a lot of it, and it's got some really nice, sorry about the head scratching there. It's got some decent production, and it does have some pretty decent structuring, I guess, but, like, it is... Oh, man. This is how douchey they are. I don't normally watch a lot of music videos these days, but in the music video of one of the songs from this one, their drummer is wearing a fucking Affliction t-shirt. A brand that's been dead for a fucking decade. Like... No. No. But I only gave this album a C, but it's still a lot worse than a C. I feel like I should have given it a worse grade. That's the Landfall of The Turning Point, though. Just don't listen to it at all. It's bad. Next is The Last Rain with Evolution. Now, this is a sort of prog metalcore, death metal-ish sort of thing. You know what? It's not really bad. It's got some pretty good, strong lyrical content to it, I guess you could call it. It does try to go for a concept about the fact that we as a human race are just completely messing everything up. I can only give it a B minus though. It does fall flat in a fair few parts of it, and it's way too damn long. There are way too many long songs on this one that really needed to be filed down. But it's still a fairly enjoyable album if you just need some pretty good metal that does try to make you think at least. I can recommend it. It's again just got some really good instrumental work, and the band do try to sell what they're playing. So yeah, B minus, I guess. Next is The Living Tombstone with 01. Now this is his full length debut album. The Living Tombstone is very obviously well known for doing like a lot of songs on the internet and doing like remixes and covers. So it's nice to have him do something full of original music, and I'm giving this an A+. It is just a very summary album. It's got some really great lyrical content, like the song Drunk is really good, the song Can't Wait is really, really depressing, but easily my favourite song on the album. Just, this is a really good album. Like, a really good sort of alternative hip-hop, alternative rock leaning thing. A+. I mean, just listen to it. It's really good. And the dude can sing, he can rap, like, he can produce as well. The production on this album is fucking great. Yeah, listen to The Living Tombstone with 01. Listen, now. Next is Marilyn Manson with We Are Chaos. Now, my last Marilyn Manson album was the one he released 3 years ago, which I think was Heaven Upside Down. Was called? And, yeah, this one just gets a B minus. Like, he's really starting to show his age in his later albums. I'm not giving it a low grade, though, because he can still sing, and I'm glad he's not focused on just being a shock value shock rock monster anymore. But he just sounds so uninterested and a bit bored with what he's doing, and that doesn't really get me invested in it. In it or win it, I don't know. But yeah, it's still pretty good. It has some moments to it, just it's long and a bit boring, but a B minus is the best I can give it. Next is Mike Shinoda with Drop Frames Volume 3. I was very, very worried we weren't going to see this, but there we go. Once again, it just gets a B+, the same as the previous Drop Frames albums. Just, hang on, did I give those a B or a B+? Well, whichever, this was still really enjoyable, maybe his best of the bunch. So yeah, just him messing around with some really good beats, no real lyrics, so it is just an instrumental album, but it's something that you put on in the background and just chill to. and it's just him messing around, flexing, and actually doing a really good job at that, and just sounding like he's enjoying what he's doing, considering that the time that his band has been through, and the fact that 2020 has been horrible. I can't really blame him for that, so kudos to him. Next is Movements with No Good Left to Give. Now, these are a band that have had a lot of buzz behind them. This is their second album, and yeah, I can see why that buzz has been surrounding them. It gets an A+. This legit might be one of my favourites of the year. I really like this one. Just really heartfelt lyrics, surprisingly catchy, emo sort of post-hardcore leaning thing. A really classic nostalgic feeling to the emo as well. Considering that this band hasn't been around for even half a decade, that is quite an impressive feeling to capture. Yeah, they all just sound great. Their lead vocalist, he puts a lot into his central performance here, and he sounds great. Obviously the rest of the band do too. Great lyrics, really heartfelt places, really relatable album. Just listen to this one. I'm not even trying to be joking, just find this one out and listen to it. It's really good. Next is Napalm Death with Throes of Joy in the Jaws of Defeatism. You know, because we needed more happy titles for albums in 2020. Napalm Death, though, they're pretty much the OGs of grindcore death metal, or death grind, or not porno grind, though. I'm thankful that they haven't really delved into that genre, and the less said about that one, the better. But yeah, just a B+. I mean, they might be getting on a bit now, but they're still one of Britain's best ever metal acts, in my opinion, still going at it, and I mean, I feel the same way about this album as I did about Venom Prison's last album last year, even though that was one of my favourites of 2019. Just, I don't expect to like grindcore this much, because grindcore is not meant to really be enjoyed. Because, you know, to enjoy something, it needs to last longer than 2 minutes, but I'm just saying. But yeah, it's again a really fun death metal album from one of maybe the best death metal acts ever, or one of them, maybe. But yeah, really worth it if you're even remotely into this genre, or even remotely a Napalm Death fan. So, yeah, not bad for my first album by them either. I know I'm a heathen. I'll probably never fix it. I don't fucking know. Next is Plague Years with Circle of Darkness. Now, this one was a bit of a surprise to me, because I was expecting this to be a bit more metal-y. And no, wait, it still was. It still was quite metal-y. In fact, these last few albums, except for the one at the very end, are actually quite metal-y. But yeah, this was a good bit of metal-y. Really good sort of post-hardcore leaning thing as well. It tried to have some pretty decent political lyrics from what I remember. Yeah, this was just really nice, really enjoyable metal. It gets a B. But yeah, it's just a really enjoyable bit of thrash metal, and if you're even remotely into that genre, give this one a listen. Next is Repentance with God for a Day. This is the last album I heard for September, believe it or not. There's still 2 more albums to go over after it. Yeah, this was, again, really solid debut. Really sort of interesting. I give it a B+. It's got really good production, even though it's not a really long album. It's got some pretty decent lyrics to it too. It's got some really good instrumental chops as well, and the band do have a lot of potential and talent on display. Yeah, they just really need to tap into it a bit more for the next one. So yeah, a lot of it stuck with me too. It was a surprisingly sort of like memorable, catchy metal album, which I wasn't really expecting, but could be worth your time if you can find the time to listen to it, and you probably can. There's only like 8 songs on this thing, I think, so it's not going to take up too much of your time. Next is Skeletal Remains with the Entombment of Chaos. Now, this lovely little pop, I'm just kidding, obviously, it's a metal act. It's a death metal act. Very death metal. Yeah, this is a very classic sort of death metal sort of feeling to it. It's very focused on like lyrics about religion and how the human body works and how it looks when it's like sanguinated. You know, little things that make death metal so charming and likable. I'm joking, of course. Well, not really. It does sort of have those lyrical themes to it. It's a very existential crisis sort of an album, and considering in 2020, you know, being the year that it has been, we needed more of that, so thank you, Skeletal Remains, you bunch of bastards. But yeah, no, this was actually a really enjoyable album. If you're even remotely into this style, I've been saying that a lot in this last stretch of the video, I recommend giving this one a shot. It has some really nice moments to it, and it's really nicely produced too. It does lack in some areas, I just really can't remember them, but good album though, still good. And finally we reach yours truly, not me, that's the name of the band, with their album Self Care. This is their second album, I think, and yeah, I just really enjoyed it. It's just some really good sort of pop punk. It sort of gave me vibes of Stand Atlantic from last month, you know. It gets a B+. I thought this had some really nice moments to it. It was really nicely handled. Also, it might have one of my favourite album covers this year because it's not like a band photo, it's not like some gory image of like death and skeletons. It's just like a sewn sort of thing of someone holding a heart. It's adorable. I love this album cover. I really do. And I quite enjoyed this album too. And this band, they're Australian as well, so obviously big plus to me. I fucking love Australia's music scene as always. Yeah, definitely worth finding out. I can safely recommend this one with a solid, strong B+. Regrettably, oh no, that's it for this video. The ones I can recommend the most from this past month are definitely 10 Years with Violent Allies, The Hell with Joris if you just want really something dumb and fun to listen to, Deftones with Ohms, and I think my overall album of the month, I don't really do this. Oh no, actually, it could be between Living Tombstone or Movements, but I'm giving it more towards Movements. I really enjoyed that album. And you might enjoy it too. I can recommend this one to you safely. It's really good. Go and find out and listen to it. But yeah, I'm basically done with the video. I'm going to sign off. I will see you all tomorrow for Harsh Environment 2. I don't really have any videos planned until Sunday, if there's a Further Nitro review. So that's most likely the next thing you'll see me for after Harsh Environment 2 tomorrow night. And as always, thank you for watching. You're awesome. Bye bye.